People who have dialed numbers written on bathroom stalls, what's your story? When I was younger, someone wrote for a good time call and my number on the playground slide. People would call a couple of times a week, laugh, and then hang up. It started to get annoying, so I went to the playground to cover it up. Someone saw me doing it and called the cops saying I was vandalizing the playground. I had to explain to the cop that I was just removing my number so people would stop calling me. I saw a number scratched on a table at a bar that said something like, "Call Mike, he's been really mean." So I sent Mike a text telling him to be nicer, and in response he sent me back several angry, "Who the hell is this?" texts over the next few days. He's really mean. In high school, I messaged one that was on the back seat of a bus that was going through town that was a 30-minute drive from my town. I texted, "Who is this? Your number is on the back of the seat of this bus." They replied, "Greg." I told my classmate about it a week later since his name was also Greg. Sure enough, he holds out his phone with a text message from me in there. "Are you guys married?" I was at the bus stop and saw this text, "If you have a serious problem, call this number." I called the number because I had like 30 minutes to bus. It was a local small taxi company. I told him to come and pick me up. He saved me like 25 minutes of waiting. The guy was cool, and I even gave him a solid tip. I found a business card in a phone booth printed critically with "If you don't call, you'll never know," and a phone number. Since I had time left on the phone card, I called, and now I know. It was a pseudo-religious self-help cult trying to recruit people to seminars at their ranch in like New Mexico somewhere with promises of finding a new spiritual family. No thanks, the last thing I need is more family. I called a number for a good time, was greeted by a local pizza place. I proceeded to order 2 pizzas and at the end of the call discovered they didn't deliver to my area. It was a bad time. The stall lied. My cousin met her boyfriend since 3 years by calling a number on a bathroom wall. It said something like, "For a good time, call 07XXXXXX." She texted out of curiosity. Apparently one of his friends had put his name and number down there just to mess with him. He usually had guys sending him D-pics and stuff, and he was considering changing his number. They texted back and forth for over 6 months until they met up. They now live together and seem happy. If they ever end up getting married and have kids, they'll have quite a story to tell about how they met. I went outside after watching a movie at the theater, and someone had written their number in the snow that had collected on the back of my car. I texted it, and it was just a random guy who went to my school. Never met him, but he saw the decal from my university, and his buddies had dared him to leave his number there. Not in a bathroom stall, but someone had once written one of my male friends' numbers on a classroom bench. A girl called him, they talked, and began dating. Eventually, a guy who had a crush on her beat my friend up. And that's how my friend lost his first girlfriend. She left your friend because some creepy stalker beat him up? What? She was alone and friendless and probably had some mental issues. She ended up dating the other guy instead. Also, this was in the freshman year of high school, so they weren't the most mature people in the world. I dialed a number from my college bathroom stalls that said "Free BJ." I thought it was going to be the police department or something asinine, but I wanted to do it anyway because you never know, and it was a number from Vector Marketing. About 10 years ago, somebody wrote, "Call XXXXXXX for a good time" on the sidewalk. So I saved the number, thinking I would call the number and at least let them know how I got it, but I never did. Just kept the number saved as 3 question marks. Well, the other day I was on Snapchat and saw 3 question marks pop up in suggested friends or whatever, so I added her. She added me back. She's a babe and I have no idea what to say to her, but I want to tell her how I got her number and not seem weird. I was at a restaurant and they had to give the $1 to charity and put your name on this piece of paper we post on the wall. While waiting in the lobby for a friend, I saw one that had a name and a phone number with the "Call Me" under it. I figured, what the hell, why not? Girl answers and I ask if it's XXXXXX. She says yes. I explain I'm in the lobby of the restaurant and her name is on the wall with her phone number. She doesn't believe me despite my best efforts to convince her I don't know who she is. Eventually, she asks me to walk out of the front door of the restaurant, which I obliged, and she says, "Holy crap." Meanwhile, I'm standing in a parking lot looking around trying to figure out who the hell is looking at me. She asked me to take the paper down and thanked me. Apparently, one of her coworkers told her friend that he did it and she didn't believe him. They worked in the area and frequented the restaurant. Me and a few mates wrote one of our friends' numbers in the portaloo or drop toilets at Glastonbury Festival about 6 years ago. Every summer around festival season, he'll receive a few good calls from people asking if the guy wanting "have a good time" is still available, and if so, where does he want to meet? His girlfriend hates us almost as much as he does. When my friend and I were about 11, there was a public bathroom in the park where we had soccer practice, and outside that public bathroom was a payphone. And on that payphone was a scrawled number, and above it was the word "call." I don't recall ever paying for a call, so maybe it was a 1-800 number. I don't remember. It was a recording of a woman's voice. I remember only the beginning, but I can hear it crystal clear. "You want to have fun? Yeah?" And then a bunch of feminine giggling. We would hang up when the recording asked for a credit card number to continue the call. I think we were terrified our parents' credit cards would somehow get charged and we would get caught. Kid logic. We are both straight females, but we still called that thing all the time. It was seriously the most risque thing I've ever done up to that point. And also probably for a long time afterwards, sadly. Okay, so it isn't a bathroom stall, but a hilarious story. Back a long time ago, Paris Hilton had her T-Mobile Sidekick hacked, and all her contact numbers leaked online. I was contacting some 15 to 16-year-old kid to do a website for me at the time. About 4 to 5 hours before the list went public, this guy building my site hits me up on the AIM. Yeah, that old. And is like, my buddy just did some crazy hack. He got all these celebs' numbers. Rubbish, I said, because at the time, this was unheard of. He sends me a text file of about 150 names. The first one that stuck out to me that I knew who they were was Fred Durst. Rang him up, froze, and then said, "Yes, is this Mr. Durst?" "Yeah, who is this?" I truthfully explained the exact scenario, and my morbid skepticism led me to dial him up. He said something about going to have to turn his phone off now and actually thanked me for giving him a heads up. After that, I waited a few hours and picked a number at random, someone I didn't recognize or know. Wrong idea. She picked up the phone and said my number was now logged into her phone and the FBI were on the case. Whatever. And she hoped I died. At that moment, I knew the list went public. I logged into some MIRC chats and it was story after story of interactions. I don't like his music, but Fred Durst seemed like a cool cat, and I like to think I gave him a heads up. Kinda unrelated, but I took a picture of my Snap code, basically like a QR code for Snapchat accounts, using one of the display phones at Best Buy. I now have a random woman following me. I went to a gig, and everyone who frequented this venue would write on the wall while queuing, so me being drunk already decided I would ring one because it said something amusing. Guy answers, and I tell him where I am, and then I was so bored, so I rang this number off the wall. We had a convo about who he saw and who I was seeing that night, and due to me being drunk, I sang a song by the band he went to see down the phone to him. Funniest Q bonding moment so far. Never dialed one by myself, but I answered a call one day from an unrecognized number. He was in a bathroom stall at Arby's that read, "For a long philosophical conversation," and my phone number. Now, I didn't write it, but I guess word gets around. Wasn't a caller, but the recipient of many calls. When I was a teenager, some friends of mine were competing in a school competition against hundreds of schools from across the country. This is an event that happens yearly and attracts a lot of national attention. My friends, being the smart arses they are, printed my name and number with the typical call for a good time line or something to that effect. Over the course of the day, I must have gotten upwards of 50 phone calls and text messages. Teenagers think they're hilarious. To top it off, my phone number made it to the 6 p.m. national news. Towards the end of the event, one random student was being interviewed, so smartarse friend decided to write my name, number, and call me on an A4 sheet of paper and stood in shot during the interview. I was once really high with a friend and called the number spray painted on the side of a dumpster with the name Yolanda. We wanted to let her know that someone spray painted her name and number on a dumpster at our local shopping center. A lady answered with a heavy Spanish accent who proceeded to yell at the both of us because it was her dumpster. "What the F is the matter with you? That's my dumpster." The rest was in Spanish and what I assume was an endless stream of expletives. That was the first and last time I called a number like that. I didn't even know people could own dumpsters. Jeez. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel and press the like button.